Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse on the LCC network. It's week 11, baby. The last week of conference play in the regular season, and that means this week means everything. What's up, Jameson?
Hey man, I'm excited. It is the last week of conference play. A lot on the line with some of the playoff stuff, which we'll go through here in a sec. We've got your rookie record, a quick game of Guess Who, and a new segment called Total Rebuild, which I think is going to be really interesting. So, are you ready to kick it off, man?
Let's kick it off. Let's get this thing going.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead with your rookie record. I want to hear who it is this week.
Yeah, my rookie record of this week is none other than Leighton Vander Esch, the first round pick from the Dallas Cowboys this past year. 6'4", 255. The man is built more like a house than a linebacker, man. He's huge. He had 67 points last week with 13 tackles. 13, that is so crazy. With a tackle for a loss, a pick, and a pass defended. The week before he had 30. He is definitely killing it with Sean Lee not really playing out there. I mean, I really think it's time for them to leave Sean Lee out to dry and then just plug this man in because he's the real deal. It's obvious. I think everyone in the league, I think he's owned in both conferences. I know David Abortion Clinic has him. I think Cameron has him. At this point, this guy's a solid keeper in my opinion. I really like him, and he's been a little up and down this season, but overall he's had a great year so far, and I like him going forward too.
Yeah, he's legit. He's the future there. That's why I took him in the first round, knowing that Sean Lee can't stay healthy and hasn't stayed healthy at all in his career. So I actually drafted Leighton Vander Esch in the 11th round in our conference, I believe, and then kicked him to the curb after a few weeks because I wasn't getting production from him. And he passed on a couple teams, but now I think he's found his final resting place there with Cameron. He's making a playoff push. But I like that pick a lot. Let's jump into Guess Who. So this is a segment that's this game. It's new. We haven't done this before, but I think this is a lot of fun. So I'm going to run through some players here with you, Pat. I'm going to give you some data about maybe where they were drafted, their position, their rank, their average points per game, and you tell me if you can try to figure out who this player is. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, cool. So I got the first one here. So this is a safety. All right, so it's safety, and everyone playing at home, see if you can figure it out before I give the answer too. So this is a safety. He's averaging 33.9 points per game. He's currently ranked number 4th at the position, so not overall, but at the position. And he went undrafted in our league. Guys that were picked ahead of him: Minka Fitzpatrick, Micah Hyde, Carl Joseph, Adrian Amos. Guys that are not doing squat this season. We're all picked ahead of him. So who do you think this guy might be?
Oh man, I want to say Jesse Bates just because he dropped off last week. I feel like that could have bumped him down a couple spots on the DB ranking. I know I got it right.
Bates. Yeah, it's Jesse Bates.
Dude, oh my God, dude, there we go.
Yeah, he's had a tremendous season. I wanted to show. Oh, sorry, hold on.
Thank you, girls.
Yeah. Thanks, ladies. I wanted to showcase just, I've said it for a long time. Everyone has. You don't win at the draft, and that's a prime example right there. Number 4th in the position. He's a rookie, undrafted. A bunch of guys picked ahead of him. Almost 34 points a game is what he averages, and he's a top 5 in his position. So that's an awesome player. That's an awesome. You grabbed him, and I'm sure he was picked up in the other conference. But that's good. I really didn't think you would get that at all. I wonder if anybody else who's listening got that. It's screaming no, it's Jesse Bates. All right, so player number 2, a little more old school here. He's a running back. He's averaging 25.7 points per game. He's ranked 11th at the position. He was drafted in the 11th round of our conference. I can't see the other conference without going through tons and tons and tons and tons of data. Former Pro Bowler, and guys that were picked ahead of him in our conference: Darius Geis, LaShawn McCoy, Rex Burkhead, Royce Freeman, Rashad Penny. All those guys were picked ahead of him, and he's outperforming every single one of them. So who do you think this guy might be?
this is kind of a stretch. Lamar Miller?
It's not Lamar Miller. It's not Lamar. That's a good guess.
Oh,
That's a
man.
really good guess, though. I like that. That's probably pretty close.
Yeah.
What about this?
He's had a really good year.
He's a definite first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's probably in his last season.
Oh, shit. Oh, AP.
Yeah, it's AP.
There we go.
It's Adrian Peterson.
There we
11th
go.
in the position, drafted in the 11th round of our conference, former Pro Bowler. Did you hear all those guys that were picked ahead of him? And he's outperforming. He's crushing all of them. I thought that was really interesting, given how freaking old he is, and how it looked like the wheels had fallen off last season. But man, he's crushing it. Last one. This is a receiver. He's averaging 14.1 points per game. So this is the opposite. This is kind of a guy who is not, kind of living up to expectations. He's ranked 49th in the receiver position. He was a keeper for an 8th round pick in our conference. So that's not bad. There were clearly a lot of receivers picked after him. He's a former Pro Bowler, and here's some guys that were picked after him who are performing better. D.D. Westbrook, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, and Julian Edelman. All these guys were picked after him and are exceeding, have exceeded production beyond what he has. So, do you have any guess of who this might be?
Is it Larry Fitzgerald?
It is. It's Larry Fitz.
There we go. 2 of 3. I swear to God, I didn't look these up either. I mean, I promise you.
Yeah, people at home are like, "Oh, this is all rigged." Like, no, they're totally did this.
No.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I literally looked at the notes right here right before this thing started, and I just went based off that. Everything you just read off is literally what I went off of. But that's pretty cool. That was fun.
Yeah, that was. I like that a lot. People like that. I'd love to throw more of these in here that are even tougher. But yeah, that was good. That was really awesome. All right, cool. So we'll jump into a new segment here called Total Rebuild. I know this is the one that you and I are really excited about, and I'm hoping that everyone else will be too. So what we're gonna do? You've picked a team. I picked a team. We're gonna talk. These are both teams that are out of playoff contention for this year, one in each conference. We're gonna talk about what it's gonna take to rebuild this team in order to be competitive for next season. If this is your team, you definitely need to listen. I think it'd be good for you guys. I mean, me and Pat are only the top 2 seeds in our conference. I mean, like, what do we know? But I think it'd be good. But also, if you're not, definitely feel free to listen because, some of this might apply to your team as well. So, Pat, go ahead.
Yeah. No. I was going to say, I think this also kind of shows how we think, too, as fantasy owners, how we value things and so forth. So, I mean, even obviously, this is really only going to apply to 2 teams in the entire league. But honestly, it kind of gives you a sense of how we think even this far out of the 2019 season. I mean, I've been thinking about my keepers since like week 4 of this year. It's been crazy, but I've already been thinking about who I want to keep. But I think this kind of shows a little under the hood of how we process things, at least in fantasy.
No, yeah, you're right. Even if this isn't your team, you can take this philosophy and still expand on it as you head into the off season on your team, whether you're doing great or not, and kind of at least what we think it takes to be good. And you're right. We've been talking about keepers. I think since the summertime, dude. I've been talking about who I'm going to keep for next season before the season began. So I mean, that's what it takes. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of thought in order to I think, to be really successful. But if you want to go ahead and kick it off, man, I'm excited to hear what you got to say about this team.
Yeah. So my total rebuild is within our conference, the Elite 12, and that's none other than the worst team in our conference at the moment. That's Bryson, my little girlies. He's had a really tough year, even though he's been trying probably harder than probably a good bit of people in the league, which is kind of surprising. So I kind of want to dive into. If I was to take over this team right now, this is kind of what I would be looking to do. Right now, you've got one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. That's Tom Brady. You're going to have to give up either a first or second round pick, more than likely, to keep Brady by the end of the season. And Jameson, you know me, man. I don't believe in I think we're both the same with this. I don't believe in overpaying for a quarterback. And Tom Brady's at the end of his career. If you're in a total rebuild mode, you don't want Tom Brady for 1 year. You want a quarterback for the next 3 years. And Brady's not going to be that guy. So if I'm taking over Bryson, I'm already looking and thinking about who can I trade Brady to in the offseason to acquire either another draft pick or maybe even swap waiver wire picks on top of that to really compensate for this rebuild that needs to happen. Brady's worth a first-round pick, and especially when you look at last year's draft in both conferences, Tom Brady would have been picked in the first round at both conferences if he was there. So why not go ahead and trade this guy to a team like Kyle, who, in my opinion, really is only a couple players away from being the second worst team in the conference to one of the best teams in the conference. He's got Big Ben, but again, and Jameis Winston for some reason still his backup quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, I would be.
No, I agree.
And
I agree.
You look at a team like Kyle, who literally won the conference last year because of how potent that offense was. Why not give Kyle that quarterback that he could use to really push him over the edge and get a first, second, or maybe a third round draft pick? I wouldn't take anything less than a third if I'm Bryson. A first might be stretching it for some people. Some other people might be willing to give that up. But that would be one of the first moves I do this coming off season is totally trade Tom Brady away and forget about him, because you need to figure out something more long term, because we're looking to be good for the next several years, not just next year to make it into the wild card.
Yeah, no, I like that. Brady's got a big name. Trade him to a needy team, especially someone who might like the Patriots. I think Kyle might even like Tom Brady. I mean, definitely annex him somewhere like that. I mean, there are some players in this league that will make trades for players on the teams they like in the NFL. Like Billy, I know Billy's listening to this. Billy, if I get a Lions player that I need to get rid of, I know who I'm calling. Like right away. Like regardless of what I think it's gonna look like, because I know that Billy loves Lions players, and I know that that you love Panthers players or South Carolina players. So work that to your advantage. I agree. Annex Brady, see if you can get some picks or something for him. What else is it going to take to rebuild this team?
Next, you've also got the 7th best defensive back right now in fantasy in Demarius Randall. The only reason Demarius Randall is as good as he is right now is because the Browns are constantly playing from behind. I'm not saying the Browns are going to be reborn next year and then be good and Demarius Randall's going to fall off. I don't think you're going to see those same numbers from him as you're seeing this year. I think if you could trade Demarius Randall or even Malcolm Jenkins for another top DB in fantasy football, I think Malcolm Jenkins is somewhere in the top 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's up there.
No,
the rankings in front of me.
No, he's 24 actually. Sorry, I'm a little off.
He's still no, two.
I would keep one of the two, but trade the other for a 3rd to 6th round pick and possibly swap waiver wire picks again. If you can pull off both of these trades, Brady, either Demarius Randall or Malcolm Jenkins, and you'd probably have to do this in 2 separate trades with 2 different teams. But dude, you're looking at possibly having 2 first-round picks next year, having 2, 3rd-round picks next year, and then possibly 2 or 3 first-round waiver wire picks. I mean, that would be mind-boggling. If Bryson could walk away with just that, I'm just now getting halfway done with what I would be doing. I mean, he's head over heels way better off than he is right now. And those are realistic, attainable goals for him this offseason. And I don't think those are stretches for trades either that he can pull off.
Yeah. Yes, you can get halfway. You have to speed up a little bit, but no, I agree. No, that definitely makes sense. Get as many picks as you can. It's about volume. Get a lot of picks. That way you can miss a little bit more often and still be all right. So what else?
Next thing I'll do is either probably cut Watkins or Westbrook and move someone to IR as well. Bryson's one of the few teams in the league that really hasn't utilized the IR spot. Yeah. Maybe it's just because he doesn't know how to. But if he can move someone to IR, he can go ahead and pick up a guy like Rashad Penny, who's really starting to come on board and possibly be what we thought he was going to be in the Seahawks offense. He played great last week. The Seahawks offensive line is way better than any of us thought it was going to be. I think Penny still has a bright future. I haven't really given up on him yet for the coming years, and he's really starting to turn it on. So that's kind of what I would do next. Keeper-wise, I'd be keeping Eric Weddle for sure. Again, I'm either going to keep Malcolm Jenkins or Demarius Randall, depending on which one I trade. definitely Juju Smith-Schuster. You need that guy at receiver. If I get Penny, I'm keeping Penny. He's gonna be a cheap keeper for you. Joe Schobert, another linebacker that I really like, who's just unfortunately had some injuries this year, and that's the only reason he hasn't lived up to what he was last season.
That's a solid defensive base, though, to go into the draft.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you can acquire even more defensive talent in the first 3 rounds of the draft, which brings me up to my next point. I would use my new picks and current picks on the best linebackers and DBs, and possibly even a rookie player within the first 3 rounds. I would not be going to offense at all in the first 3 rounds. I would be solely focusing on just building that defense because he already has a strong defensive unit, I feel like, for next year. And then use the first 2 waiver wire picks on a running back and receiver, or if you can get a good linebacker like you did in a 4-3 defense that's really going to get a ton of tackles.
Yeah, no, the waiver wire is perfect for offense like talent. I think last season we saw like tons of Deion Lewis and Jared McKinnon and Juju Smith-Schuster and Emmanuel Sanders, tons of running backs and receivers. I mean, Sony Michel is probably going to be there. That's definitely a place to go. Save the defense for the draft, offense on the waiver wire. I like that strategy a lot. Cool. Yeah, that's definitely a good recipe. Bryson, if you're listening, dude, do that.
Free advice. Free advice. I just won you a championship, Bryson.
Yeah, there you go. Free advice. So I'll run through mine here. I've got Charles, the third leg in the other conference. That team is in shambles, but I looked at it. There's a lot of potential there. And so the first thing I would do, I'm going to look for injured talent that can be kept real cheap. So Cooper Kupp just tore his ACL. He's out for the season. Eric Berry hasn't played at all. If someone drops him. Christian Kirksey went to IR. He's a decent linebacker who you can grab and stash. Look for injured talent. If you can find cheap talent that isn't going to cost you much that you can keep, do it. So that's what I would do first if I'm out of the playoff contention. I'm going to keep Kuechly, Fournette, Kerryon Johnson, and Joey Bosa going into the next season. I mean, Kerryon Johnson and Leonard Fournette look legit. Kuechly and Bosa give you a good, decent base to start building your defense with. He's got Howard and Freeman. I'm going to trade both these guys. I don't like either one of them. Freeman's injury prone. Howard is game scripted out, and the Bears are weird. I'm going to trade both those guys for mid-round picks, 4 to 6 round picks if I can. And so that way we can use that depth, like we were talking about with Bryson, where you just get a lot of picks and try to hit as many of them as possible.
Honestly, though, I'm surprised he didn't say trade Luke Kuechly away. You know, you've already had him for a little bit. He's getting a little bit older. I would kind of be looking to get rid of him sooner rather than later because of his age and his injury history.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the third year, if that's still what the plan is, you definitely could. I mean, if you were to find a guy like an Eric Berry or Christian Kirksey or someone who's injured who can keep, then you have that kind of flexibility. You wouldn't have to keep Luke. Then you could trade him for an even higher pick. So that's a possibility. After I get the picks for Howard and Freeman, I'm going to use 2 waiver picks on receivers. Guys that are likely to be there: Marvin Jones, Tyler Lockett, Jarvis Landry, Golden Tate. These are all guys, O.J. Howard. These are all guys that should be on the waiver wire that shouldn't be kept, that are going to fall in that range to grab. There was a lot of talent last year, and I think the same thing is going to happen this year in that realm. So you can get your offense there. Use your 4 highest picks during the draft on DBs and linebackers. So all those picks we acquired: Tyrann Mathieu, Bradley McDougald, Jordan Poyer, DJ Swearinger, Kevin Bayard. These are all guys that shouldn't be kept, that are going to be available at the top of the draft. Levante David, Jordan Hicks, Tremaine Edmonds, Blake Martinez, Demario Davis. Those are all linebackers that should be available in those realms that shouldn't be kept. So tons of talent there, tons of depth. And then finally, I'm going to go during those later rounds with some of that draft capital that I got from Howard and Freeman. I'm going to go add a receiver, a Cooper Kupp, a Julian Edelman, a Emmanuel Sanders, a Kenny Galladay, one of those guys. And I'm going to get a cheap quarterback, Kirk Cousins, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, one of those guys. Because like you said, Pat Mahomes. If you can get Pat Mahomes in the 5th round, I need you giving me advice. I need them on the show telling me how that happens. But yeah, get a quarterback late. You don't need him early. there's just no point in getting one early. It's just not something I subscribe to. It's not something Patrick subscribes to, and I don't think a lot of guys that are competitive do at all. So again, if I went through that kind of fast, I apologize. I'm just trying to save time for some other stuff. But you can, the good thing about this video, you can stop it and rewind and listen to it over and over and over. So just some free advice for you guys. I like Charles' potential a lot. If he goes through some of those steps, I think he'll be really competitive heading in next year. So, all right, man.
Faux show.
I feel like I just talked a lot right there without a break. So, I want you to start because I need to drink some water real quick. The Elite 12 playoff projections. We're going to start in our conference. We're going to move to their conference. Breeze through you and I quickly, but I think it is worth mentioning kind of where we are. But go ahead and kick it off for us.
Yeah, no. The Elite 12, we've been saying it for weeks now. It is still so up in the air. And after last week, it's only even more murky than it ever has been. First 2 seeds are still the same. You're at 1. Actually, well, I guess that has changed. You're now 1. I'm now 2. Jameson clinched and locked up a bye, can clinch the first seed with a win, and I lose in week 11 this coming week. For myself, I can win the division if by winning this week with Isaac losing. That's kind of a stretch in my opinion.
Yeah. That means you have to win and Isaac has to lose for you to win your division. Yeah.
And then in order just to get a wild card, though, this is definitely attainable. If I can win this week and Cameron loses, I would officially lock up at least a wild card spot or better, depending on how Isaac does.
Or Cameron lose. So if you win,
Yeah. If both happen, then I definitely get it.
If both happen, then that's even better for you, I guess. But yeah, so I've got to buy Patrick. You're like knocking on the doorstep. You're right there, man. I'm cheering for you. I want you and I. We can take week 13 off. We can focus on the podcast. We can watch. I need my
guys. Just let me win this. So I can do a great job of the podcast. Take one for the league.
Stuff to do. You need to let us win so we can focus on our podcast.
That's right.
We're not sponsored yet, which I mentioned on the show last week. We're not sponsored yet. So
we are taking offers though.
We are taking offers. If anybody wants to sponsor, I'll talk about anything: hot dogs, shoes, duct tape. It doesn't matter. I'll text about that later. I was watching Skyscraper last night with Amanda, and he mentions duct tape like 9 times. The Rock. I don't know if anyone's seen that movie or not. It's not too bad. All right. Who do we got as a 3rd seed here? We got Billy.
Yep, that's right. We got Billy with the 3rd seed who can lock up the division with a week 11 win against Cameron. Or he can also lock up a wild card spot with tie or better with the current wild card contenders and lead in points for. All of that's very attainable too. I mean, Billy's got, things look good for Billy going forward. It's just this week, can he lock up the division against Cameron, which we're definitely going to talk more about in part 2 of this week's content, I guess. I was trying to think of the words to that. I couldn't say it.
Such a big game between these two this week. Lots of trash talk. That's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to see what happens. All right, 4th seed, we've got Jade. He's still on top of his division. He can lock his division up with a win, or if Mike loses this week, because him and Mike cannot tie, if Mike wants to have a shot at winning, because Jade owns the tiebreaker. And then a wild card, same thing. If he ties or better and leads in points forward, that's not going to happen. Jade's not going to be able to get a wild card spot. I mean, mathematically, sure, it's still possible, but it's not going to happen. So he's going to have to win his division. In fact, and here are some stronger teams really than I think Billy and Jade right now, at least. Isaac in the 5th seed right now looks really strong. I went through his team today, by the way. He has scored 300 points at least 7 out of 10 times. It might have been 8 out of 10 times. He did it like 6 weeks in a row, which is more than anybody has done. Maybe not Cody. I don't know. I'd have to look at Cody's too. But
he's a different beast.
That's
though.
Insane.
When you talk about, you don't even put Cody on everyone else's level right now because of the amount of talent he has, and when he starts getting guys back from injuries and so forth, it's just going to be even worse for everyone involved.
For everyone involved, yeah. That's going to be fun in week 12 for Kyle when he has to play Cody. And then whoever has to play in the playoffs. But Isaac, he can actually still win your division if he has to tie or better with you and your dad, or your dad, and then lead you guys in points for, which he can definitely do because he is doing it right now in points for. To do that, he does have to win at least one more game, and that's if you guys lose out. So I mean, he still has to win games, but he's more than capable of stealing this division from you guys. So you better look out.
By the way, you were talking about Isaac's how strong his team is in terms of top 10 players in fantasy. I'm not fantasy owners, just players that people own. You go look at Isaac. He doesn't have any players in the top 10, believe it or not. Yet he's still putting up good points. On the other side of that, Cody has 4 of the top 10 on his team.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So I think that just kind of shows, like, we're talking about some of the cream of the crop in our conference right now, and there's still there's night and day to Cody right now. So
that is nuts. Oh my god! For the top 10, that's hard to even fathom. I would venture that nobody in our conference has more than 2 of the top 10 at the most.
Who do you think has those 2 players in the top 10? Wrong. Guess again. I'll give you 3 guesses. You're not gonna get
it. Is it you?
Nope.
Okay, so that's 2
guesses. Actually, take that back. There are 2 teams that have 2 players in the top 10. You were right about Tyler. He has 2 of the top 3, actually, and they're both quarterbacks.
He has 2 of the top 3? Oh, they're both
2 of the top 3.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I don't know. Who's the other team?
Peyton. Peyton has 2 of the top 10. Alvin Kamara at 10. And then get this, he's got Jared Goff, who's number 4. Does anyone remember that Jared Goff trade way back when?
Oh my god!
Here he is, the 4th best player in fantasy right now, and oh my god, that trade will always be known in this league. Like, no one will ever forget about it.
God. They were just talking trash about that on the chat the other day, which was funny. Because he's never gonna live that down. So we've got your dad, the 6th seed. Very similar situation, has to lead. Tyler do better with you and Isaac, and then lead in points for. He has to beat you in week 11 though, in order to have a shot at the division. Wild card, he just has to win out, or hope that Tyler and Cameron lose out and can't challenge him for the wild card spot. But he's in a really good place and he's on fire right now. So,
yeah, didn't you tell me he's in the past 5 weeks he scored 300 3 times in the past 5?
I think
something like that.
I think so. Something like that. Even when he lost to me, he still scored over 300 points.
I was literally on the phone with him earlier this evening, and I was like, "Man, you ready for a game this week?" And he was like, "Are you ready for the game this week?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess we'll find out." But here's the thing: this team reminds me so much of that championship team that he had, and I believe it was 2013 when he pulled that upset against Jade. It literally, the entire regular season, it was good. It definitely wasn't great. They didn't flash at you. You never thought it'd be a championship team. And it peaked at the end of the year, like it is right at this moment.
Yeah.
And it just didn't look back. I mean, he just burnt through the playoffs and then upset Jade and in a very close little critter bowl. I'm worried about him. I've got him this week. There's some teams that he could easily edge out in the playoffs. He could still win the division. That's crazy to think about too.
It is. It really is. But yeah, you're right. He looks great. His team looks great. David Johnson's fired up finally. It only took 7 or 8 weeks, but his team looks really good. I would not be surprised to see him in there challenging you guys for the division and everything. So on the bubble, teams that are still mathematically possible. Tyler, he can't win the division, but he can't get the wild card spot. He's a game behind. He's got to win games. Lucky for him, he owns a lot of tiebreakers. You beat your dad, you beat Cameron, you beat Isaac, and He beat not Bryson.
Billy?
He's playing Peyton this week. He lost to Billy. That's the only team he lost to. So
Okay.
he doesn't want Billy to end up in the wild card, or that would be bad for him. But he's beaten everybody else. So he at least has that, but he has to win games. He's been on a little bit of cold streak lately, the last couple of weeks, so he needs to get it turned around. And Peyton's, I think, a good team to do that against. Next, we've got Cameron. Same thing as Billy. He has to win week 11. Billy just has to win, and he wins the division because he won the first game. Cameron has to win this and then lead Billy in points for, which I think he's doing right now by a couple points. So if he can win week 11, it almost locks it up, which is why it's such a big game for both these guys. He can get in the wild card, but it's not very likely. I don't think. He's already a game behind. Tyler's ahead of him. Your dad, Isaac. I don't think he gets in the wild card, so he's really got to win the division against Billy, I think, in order to get in. Next, we've got Mike. He has to win out, and Jade has to lose out in order to win the division, which I don't see happening. I mean, Mike gets Bryson this week, so if he beat Bryson, he's only a game away. And Jade plays Isaac, so Jade could lose to Isaac, and then it's a week 12 battle, for the division.
Yeah.
But then he has to beat him points for, which I don't see happening really either.
Here's the thing, though. Like you said, Jade is playing one of the best teams in the league right now at Isaac. Isaac's favored by 48 right now. I think it's definitely possible, probably more than likely, Jade's going to lose that game. While on the other hand, Mike, I believe, is playing Bryson, who's favored by 100 points right now.
Yeah.
You tell me what that does in that race for the division. I mean, this week means so much. This is a must-win for both of these teams.
Yeah.
Mike, this is a very attainable win for him. For Jade, this is a very tough win to come by. So I think more than likely we're going to see a Week 12 battle to the finish for the Elite 12 North.
Is that dirty enough for you?
That's the dirty drop for Mike. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I think the same thing. It's going to be a Week 12 thing, non-conference week. They're not going to get to play each other for it, but. And then next we've got Peyton. He has to. This is a weird situation. He cannot go to the wild card because of tiebreakers, but he can still win the division. If he wins out, Cameron has to lose out. Billy has to win week 11 but lose week 12. No, wait, that's not possible because if Billy wins week 12 or wins week 11, he wins the division.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's right. Oh, sorry, Peyton, you're out, man. That was an oversight on my part. I do these throughout the day, and I missed this one. Sorry, man. I'll move you down to eliminated.
Sorry, babe. We just ruined your season.
Sorry.
Dude, that's so messed up.
I didn't mean to. That was a complete accident. I'm gonna move him down right now.
Are you sure about this? Hang on,
Yes, I don't know why I just caught that. Normally I catch these right when I do them. But there's no like secret formula. I have to go through every freaking game for every freaking person. No, he's done.
Well, actually, correct me if I'm wrong here. Peyton owns Billy. I think didn't Peyton sweep him this year?
No, they split.
Because
wait,
are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure. No, Peyton's 4-6. Listen, Peyton's 2-2 in divisional play. He was swept by Cameron. Therefore, his only two other wins could have been against Billy. And if that's the case, then actually Peyton could still win the division with a win here. And if Billy can win, they would come down to a tie. They would come down to points for.
No, yeah, you're right. I actually missed that. Well, here's the problem, though. If Billy loses, Cameron wins, he can't catch Cameron because Cameron beat him for the tiebreaker.
Right. No, he has to have Billy win this week, and Billy has to. So Billy needs to beat Cameron this week for Peyton. Peyton obviously has to win this week, and then therefore Peyton will be a game behind in week 12 from Billy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he'll have to beat him at points for. But here's the deal: it's nearly a 200-point difference in points for right now between Peyton and Billy. So more than likely, Peyton's probably eliminated. It's not mathematically impossible, but more than likely he's been eliminated.
Okay, so all right, so I did have it right for Peyton. I had it wrong for Billy. That's my bad. We are doing this live on the podcast right now. Getting this figured out. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. So Peyton swept Billy. Is that what I'm to believe?
What now?
Peyton swept Billy. Okay, so he's
Yeah.
he doesn't have to lead in points for. He's just a tie Billy.
Oh, you're right. No. You're right about that. Jeez, I got that wrong too. So you're right. Since he swept Billy, all he needs to do is just have the same record as him in week 12. Yeah. Definitely possible. Peyton won week 10, which was last week 328 to 306. That was critical for Peyton, and then he ended up winning in week 1, 257 to 250. So
got it. Okay.
So no, it's possible.
I know what I did. So I do these. I did these yesterday before the games finished, and I basically gave Peyton the win before the games because I knew he was going to beat Billy, but I didn't change his record in my head. I had his record at 3-6. So I had
okay.
Yeah. So I had to do these a day ahead of time in order to have them ready for the show tonight. So I do them when the records haven't changed yet. So I'm like going through it and trying to keep it all in my head. So that was an oversight by me. But Peyton, you're still in it. So that was a freaking emotional roller coaster for Peyton. You're in, you're out, you're in. You are still alive.
You're in. So you're saying there's a chance.
Saying there's a chance. All right, cool. So let me fix Billy.
And then, do we want to mention the last two teams here? We got Kyle with the 11th team. We've got Bryson at the 12th, which we just talked about that earlier in this episode.
Yes.
Right now, they are fighting for the prestigious McDonald's Bowl in Week 13. Bryson Kyle rematch from earlier in the year. Watch out. That's going to be a good game.
Could you please not do anything awful for 5 seconds?
They've both been eliminated mathematically. Bryson has locked up the first pick in the draft, so that's awesome. But there will not be any playoffs for these guys, unfortunately. So nothing like that for them. But let's see. Are you there, Pat?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. It looked like you kicked out for a second.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Awesome. All right, cool. So we'll jump.
Luckily, I wasn't talking this. So.
Yeah, we'll jump over to the top shot real quick. We are running a little further on time because I got behind on Peyton's thing. So we'll jump right into it. Not much has changed in this conference. Cody still leads, although he did lose to Colby, which really helps Colby solidify his spot. So Cody still 8-2. He can win his division this week if he wins and Mufali loses in his game. So he can still get in. And then a wild card spot, all he's got to do is win. And he locks himself up a wild card spot. He guarantees himself a wild card spot. So Cody, have at it this week. You're facing, who is he facing? It's got to be, I remember it being someone I felt like he was going to beat pretty easy. But I don't remember who it is off the top of my head.
Jeez, how do you not know this? God, I'm just kidding.
Why do you not have this in your head all the time?
No. Reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite.
Sorry, Jordan. I didn't mean to say that someone I could beat pretty easy. I feel like I'm mad now. Because Jordan was supposed to be on time. I'm kind of glad he wasn't. I didn't say that to his face. The number 2.
Well, Cody's favored by 70.
Yeah. If he wins, he's in. If he wins and if he loses, he wins the division. So Cody, you know what you have to do. Hunter, still in the same situation. He's already clinched the division. Not a lot to play for other than a bye. So he is 8-2 now, which is 2 games ahead or 1 game ahead. 2 games ahead of Daquan. So if Hunter wins, he locks up a bye, which I think he'll be really good because he looks like he can actually threaten Cody this year. Not too much to speak on since he's already won his division. Daquan, he can win his division with a win and a loss by Jordan. So Daquan is cheering on Cody this week, even though Cody stomped him in the game of the week a couple weeks ago. So of course, wild card, tie or do better, and lead in points for. I think Daquan really has his sights on the division, but Jordan looks like a very sneaky team right now. creeping up behind him, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit more.
He is.
But
I've been saying it for a while now. I really think that Jordan can give him a run for his money.
yeah, he's only a game out with 2 games left. They don't face each other again, but they have split already. And then their points for are literally, they're only 61 points apart. So, I mean, that's not much in the scheme of 2 weeks. So, I mean, Jordan's definitely still got a very good chance at this. Number 4, David, we all, I think me, you, and Isaac all picked David to win last week against Storm. He did, and now he's got control of the division. If he wins and Storm loses this week, he clinches the division. If to get a wild card spot, he has to win out. Mufali has to lose out. Jordan and Colby have to lose at least 1 game, and then he's got to lead all of them in points for. So not a lot of chance. Not a lot of. I mean, how many of those can you tick off before you just run out of time? You got 2 weeks. Not a lot of chance he wins a wild card, but I think he's in a very good spot for the division. We all predicted him to win it. We all predicted him to win last week, and it looks like he's kind of pulled out there. So 5th seed here, we've got Mufali. You want to take over for me, Pat? I need a drink of water.
Yeah.
Allergy season here,
No, Mufali, we've been talking about him for a while. I mean, he's obviously in a good spot for the wild card race at the 5th seed. He can win the division, though, if he can win out and Cody, Steel Curtain, loses at least 1 game between this week and next week, and he needs to lead in points for.
Yeah. And he's not that far behind. He's only about 90 points behind Cody. So it is possible.
Yeah, that's definitely doable. Yeah. For 2 games, it's definitely possible. Wild card, though, just win.
Yeah, just win. Just win, baby, win.
That's literally all you got to do.
Yeah, so
that's a good spot to be in, though, and control of your own destiny in the playoffs. You can't complain about that.
Yeah, you always want to be in the driver's seat. You don't want to be these bubble teams that have to have stuff go, kind of go their way, And then Colby, 6th seed, he did win, which really helped him solidify his spot there. In the 6th seed, he's still a game ahead of Jordan. He could still win the division if he wins out. Cody loses out, and then he leads the whole division of points for, which is not very likely considering he's 600 points behind Cody right now with 2 games left. So you would have to average over 300 more points a game than Cody in order to catch him and win out and have him lose out. So not very likely. But he can lock up a wild card spot if he wins and Jordan loses this week. So that Jordan losing will help out Daquan and Colby. So I'm sure the whole conference is cheering against Jordan in week 11. Speaking of Jordan, he's on the bubble. He's right there behind Daquan, like we talked about. If he could tie or do better than Daquan, he can win the division as long as he leads in points for. And like we already mentioned, he's only 60 points behind. So still very, very possible, very likely. Daquan cannot let off the gas with Jordan right behind him right there. And then, of course, wild card spot, if he wins out, Colby loses at least 1 game, and then he lead Colby in points for, which is a possibility because he does have Colby by about 100 points in points for. So Jordan, I know you've been in the bubble a couple of weeks, man, but you're still very much in this thing. Very, very.
I like his spot.
Yeah, I do too. Absolutely. Kind of like Cameron in our conference. He's on the bubble, but you feel really good about it. You know what I mean? He's that 5-5 team that you're not really worried about. So I'm definitely on Team Jordan, especially after I said Cody was going to beat him. I feel bad. That's for the next show.
That's right.
Storm still alive. If he ties and does better with David and Kevin, and then lead in points for, I don't think it's very likely. But he's still definitely possible. He keeps chugging along. Wild card eliminated. Can't get a wild card spot. Too far behind the two guys now. Kevin, same exact situation almost. He has to win out. David has to lose out. Storm has to lose at least 1 game. And he has to beat both of them in points for, which is not very likely given their situation. He is 500 points behind Storm right now in points for. So That's not a very likely scenario. He is mathematically eliminated from the playoff contention. And then finally, sorry guys, Matt, Charles, and Michael have all been mathematically eliminated from their division and wild card aspirations, given tiebreakers and records and things like that. None of those three guys have a chance anymore. So sorry, y'all. But
jeez, way to just burst their bubble.
Sorry to burst your bubble. But
No pun intended.
off another season. And maybe, yeah, no pun intended. And maybe we'll do Michael or Matt on the, or Kyle on the next Total Rebuild or something, so they can get some advice too.
Yeah, and honestly, we're going to be doing stuff like this, throughout the off season too, which I'm not sure if we talked about it, but we do plan on keeping the podcast going throughout the off season, believe it or not.
Yeah.
We may not have as many episodes as we're putting out now, but it is going to be a regular thing that we want to keep going and just get better on because, we enjoy doing it. And there's still a lot of things we have not talked about and certain games and stuff we wanted to do that we haven't had a chance to do yet because there's only so much we can do in 2 podcasts a week.
During the season, because we have to get sim advice, we've got to get predictions, projections. We have a lot to do during the season. In the off season, we're going to have all sorts of stuff: player rankings, draft review, keeper analysis, trade and free agent. All sorts of stuff in the off season. Like you mentioned, tons of games. We've got an entire list on our show doc of stuff that we haven't even touched yet, of ideas that we want to do. It's really important to us to have really good content for you guys. We want to make sure you guys are enjoying it, that the information's good, that it's entertaining, that everyone's being highlighted around the league, because that's what makes this league great, is everyone being involved and being active, unlike some other leagues. So definitely, give us feedback, let us know what you like, let us know what you don't like. But yeah, we definitely intend on doing this through the off season in a little bit different format, but it's still going to be there. So I'm really excited about that. But with that, Patrick, I think we're done for tonight, man.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. We'll be back we'll be doing our next episode tomorrow, where we'll be doing Stardom Sim advice and then week 11 predictions and a little bit more analysis on those games that we talked about or that we highlighted today. So, all right, man. Well, I'll let you go, and we'll see you at the next show.
See you guys later on.
Yeah. All right. Bye.